This is Good Morning San Diego.
This week, the California Assembly voted to reinstate COVID supplemental sick pay through the end of September. The supplement works similarly to the 2021 law, but with some changes. Joining me to talk more about it is employment attorney Annie Ellis, who joins us live via Zoom. Annie, good morning. Thanks for making the time.
Good morning, Liz. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So in simple terms, this means that employees may once again, under certain parameters, be able to take time off and be paid for that time off under this new law, correct?
Yeah, 30,000-foot view. If you're an employee working in California for a business that has more than 25 employees, you can potentially get up to 80 hours of paid sick leave for various reasons anytime from January 1st through September 30th. Few big differences in terms of the laws that we've seen over the last couple of years. I thought it was a little interesting. The bill was announced on Groundhog's Day. It did feel a little bit like year after year. Right. We might continue to see this seasonally. But some big differences that are going to hit businesses pretty hard this year. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot more voices and objections to this law than we did last year and the year before.
Okay. And so under what parameters? Because let's remind folks that it's not only if you test positive for COVID-19 that you can take time off, but there are also parameters in which, for example, if you need to care for someone with COVID-19, you'll be able to take some time off.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference that both workers and employers are looking at is we've got two different buckets here instead of one big 80-hour bucket. So bucket one is the standard reasons we've been seeing. I think I might have it. I'm going to the doctor. I'm symptomatic. Oh, my spouse got it. My child got it. I got to care for them. My kid's school is closed. But with a new wrinkle, if you're getting the vaccine or you're recovering from the vaccine, that's also covered. But the second bucket is if you or a family member test positive. And the reason why that's so important is how do you really distinguish between the first bucket when you think you have it and you're going to the doctor, and then all of a sudden you do get the positive test and now you're into the second bucket? And those are calculated very distinctly. So I think we're going to see a lot of administration issues with trying to figure out which 40 hours we're supposed to be using and when.
Okay. And it, of course, is retroactive, all of this, to January 1st, right?
Yeah, and so that's going to be another administration issue. We saw that last year, but it came up pretty quickly from what I recall after the January 1st date, so it was relatively simple to do the retro, but everyone saw how many cases we had in the first half of January this year. So all those holiday exposures and folks missing work because of, travel or whatnot, they're all going to be able to go back to their employer and request that time off. But here's the thing, employers can go to their employee and say, I want you to show me proof that you had a positive test. Does anyone still have a copy of their test from 6 weeks ago? Probably not. So I think we're going to see a lot of issues in how to unravel these new requirements.
Right. You make a good point that while this is probably going to be welcoming news for the employee, for the employer, it's going to institute a lot of challenges. And just a quick question to kind of clarify, Annie. So an employer has to provide these 2 weeks of paid time off. How does the employer get reimbursed? Will the employer, is it safe to assume that the employer is getting money from the federal government to provide this extra time off?
That's the biggest issue with this one. So in the last 2 years, every time we've had both the federal and the state COVID sick leave, the employer has been able to take an immediate dollar-for-dollar payroll tax credit when they run payroll. So although it was a burden to administer, it didn't really cost them much. We don't have that anymore. Now, the state passed a mirror bill, if you will, SB 113, that's supposed to offer all these tax relief to businesses. But a lot of my clients and business owners around town are saying, where are we going to see that money? How are we going to see that money? When are we going to see that money? And is it really going to compensate me? And so this bill, which is why I said earlier there's so many objections to it by business owners, is the one that I really think is going to hit a lot of bottom lines this year. And put it in big picture, Liz, there was already a law that said employers had to pay employees when they had a workplace exposure. So if you go to work, you get exposed, or you get positive because of work, you already had to get paid for that. So this is really dealing with personal transmission, holidays, birthdays, travel. And so now we're putting that on the employer's bottom line, and I think that's going to start to really strain some pocketbooks this year.
Yeah, I can see how that can be very tricky for employers to try and figure out and wonder, where is the money going to come from? How am I going to recoup the money that I have to, now fork out over my employees who are taking this additional time, of course, under all of those parameters. What else stands out to you as it relates to this COVID pay leave?
I think this issue of the limit on the time that employees can use to get the vaccine and recover from the vaccine is going to be interesting. It's new for this particular statute, so it is a covered reason. If you want to go get the vaccine, either dose or the booster, you can get paid for your time off as well as to recover. There's a 24-hour limit per instance, but I think that's going to be one as we start to see more employees get vaccinated, even more than we did before, that we're going to be working through those types of requests. And it is nice to know that if you do want to go get vaccinated, that your employer is going to have to pay for not only the time to get it, but also the recovery time that is so important for folks like me that we're kind of out of pocket for a couple of days after getting each shot. So I think that's a good thing. But again, some wrinkles in administering it for the business.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Annie Ellis, thank you so much. Employment attorney, we appreciate your time this morning. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Liz.